The New York Mets starting rotation has taken already a significant hit just a few days into spring training down in Port St. Lucie. A lot to get into surrounding the New York Metropolitans, and we'll break it down and much more, all coming up here on a special edition of what I like to call some Monday Night Mets talk here on the Connor Long YouTube channel. I know it's not a Jets show this time, but we'll play our Jets intro of NY Flight Jets Talk.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Cimini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Long.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Connor Long YouTube channel. It's so great to have you. First time we're trying some Mets talk here. Hopefully, you guys like it or not. We're going to take your feedback and move forward. Just thought I'd start expanding the horizon here on the show. Obviously, do a Jets show every single day. So I thought, why not sprinkle in some Mets coverage? Why not sprinkle in some, overall baseball coverage with the season coming around? Just want to see what you guys think. Appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button and you are subscribed to the channel. It's completely free and helps us grow significantly here on the show. Any questions surrounding the New York Mets or surrounding the MLB, throw it in the chat. I'll get to those if you want to call into the show. Click the pinned comment at the top of the chat. I'm going to get right into it, and I'm going to start the main topic for our New York Mets that came right out of Port St. Lucie today. Some really just annoying news, if you really think about it, surrounding the Mets starting rotation. Frankie Montas, who the Mets signed this offseason, will now be shut down for 6 to 8 weeks, and then we'll need another 4 to 6 weeks to go through his spring progression. This is unfortunate news. We're talking about Frankie Montas, someone the Mets signed, to a 2-year, $34 million contract with a player option for 2026. Just in December, he had shoulder surgery in 2022 with the Yankees. When he was with the Yankees. So I know a lot of people expect that he was going to be shut down for a little while, but the news that we got from Carlos Mendoza in Port St. Lucie today, first reported by Mike Puma of the New York Post, certainly is a little disappointing because we're talking about a team, the Mets. Yes, they do have depth based on guys they signed in free agency, guys who are already on the roster. But for a team that is trying to roll with a 6-man starting rotation, this is certainly not the news I want to hear. Certainly not the news I want to hear, and certainly not the news Mets fans should want to hear, because Montas was a lock to be, a top guy really overall, and this what was supposed to be a 6-man rotation. Now it's going to be interesting to see how Carlos Mendoza and David Stearns kind of pivot here. Do they still go with the 6-man rotation? If so, who gets that sixth spot? I mean, among the guys who have starting experience, really, out of all the Mets pitchers, or not counting Montas, obviously, include Sean Manaea, Kodai Senga, both of which are obviously going to be starters here. David Peterson, if I had to make a bet right now, he comes out of the bullpen. Clay Holmes, he's unfortunately, I think, he's going to be a starter. He's going to be a part of the rotation, someone who has basically no starting experience. And when he was a starter just a few years ago, he struggled mightily. So I'm not a fan of that move, but that's a conversation for another time. Paul Blackburn, who's with the team last year, or Griffin Canning, who they signed in free agency. A few other names I'd look out for. Potentially come in and maybe pick up that 6th spot. Tyler McGill, and bring back Jose Quintana, potentially. He was with the team last year. He's a free agent right now. He's still on sign. And then Brandon Sproat, I'd categorize him as a long shot to get that final spot. However, who knows? Anything can happen. He's a great few weeks down in Port St. Lucie. He impresses Carlos Mendoza, impresses David Stearns. Who knows what the Mets could do? I'm kind of going to go down, break down each one. I'll start with Griffin Canning, 28-year-old who the Mets signed on free agency this offseason. Has a few years of experience as starter. Last year, he really struggled, though, overall. 171.2 innings, 6-13 as a starter with a 5.19 ERA. If I had to, kind of rank these guys in order, Canning, quite frankly, would probably be last on this list. I don't mind him overall as a pitcher. You want to bring him in, maybe use him as a bullpen arm. Here's the thing, though. I think Canning is someone who's going to come in overall maybe 4 or 5 innings. The thing is, he's too inconsistent. That kind of what leads me to that ERA of over 5 there. he's too inconsistent, which ultimately led to the majority of his struggles in Los Angeles and why they ultimately didn't re-sign him. So Mets signed him in free agency. Do I have the utmost confidence to trot him out there once every 6 days and get me through 6 innings with giving up 1 or 2 runs? No, that's not the case. So that's why I don't feel comfortable with him really overall in the starting rotation. So that's Griffin Canning for you guys. Next up on this list, a familiar face for some Mets fans. That's 29-year-old Tylor Megill. It's in 78 innings with the Mets last season. I thought he did an okay job. I mean, we know what you're getting in Tylor Megill. That's the thing compared to these unknown guys like Griffin Canning. I'm sure not a lot of Met fans are too familiar with compared to Tylor Megill, who we've seen with the Metropolitans now for 4 seasons. Last year he went 4-5 as a starter with a 4.04 ERA. He's another guy, too inconsistent. There's some games he'll go out on the mound, he'll give you 6 shutout innings, and then there's other games you got to pull him after the fourth because he's giving up 6 runs. So those guys are neck and neck for the last spot on that list for me. I'm not too big on Megill nor Canning getting a spot in the Mets starting rotation next season. So that's where I stand on both those guys. Keeping it going with the list is Paul Blackburn. Now, Blackburn, another guy the Mets acquired at the trade deadline last year, 31 years old, was with the A's for a little while. 1-2 across the starts with the Mets last year. Only 24.1 innings with the team, though, 5.18 ERA. An experienced name who was an all-star just a few years ago. I put him second on my list to go ahead and try to replace Frankie Montas in this rotation. So I'd prefer Blackburn over Canning and Megill. Few things. He was an all-star just a few years ago. He's consistent. He was also with the team last year. Unlike Canning, obviously can't say the same about Megill. So I wouldn't mind Paul Blackburn, but the name I'd put ahead of him overall before we get into Brandon Spratt. I think is how you say his name, Brandon Sporat. Spratt. I'm still working on that pronunciation. I think it's a few years until we see him at the at the MLB level here, playing with the New York Mets compared to down in Binghamton, up in Binghamton rather, because I'm here on Long Island, or over in Brooklyn with the Brooklyn Cyclones. So I think it's a few years till we see him. But my number one option to replace Frankie Montas to start the season, someone who's not on the team though, he was with the team last year, 36 years old. We're talking about Jose Quintana, obviously a familiar face with the Mets. Pretty much 500 as a starter last year with the Mets. He was 10-10, 3.75 ERA across a little over 170 innings. A familiar face in the clubhouse. You can bring him in for 1 year $10 million, 1 year $11 million, something like that. So again, familiar face with the team, was pretty much 500 last year. Was there was inconsistency at times. However, I'd say he was the most consistent overall among all those names. I would be okay with Blackburn, but right now my number one choice is you bring back Jose Quintana, 1 year, $10 million, and you give him that final spot in the starting rotation for the New York Mets. Like I said, he seems to be liked in the clubhouse. Was pretty much a 500 guy last year, has a lot of experience as a starter in this league. So Jose Quintana is my number one guy right now. And then let's get to our other guy, Brandon Spratt. I'm still working on that last name, guys. Like I said, it's a few more years till we're gonna, I think, see him on the major league mound with the Mets. Though overall, a solid 2024 season. Spent time both up in Binghamton with the Cyclones and with Binghamton with the he was up in Binghamton and then he was in Brooklyn with the Cyclones. So overall, last year he went 6-2. And then a 1.07 ERA with the Cyclones, a 2.45 ERA with Binghamton. Is there a way he sneaks his way onto the 40-man roster? For sure, but I think it's going to take a very impressive next few weeks down in Port St. Lucie in order for him to earn that spot. You see him on the overlay right there. So is it a possibility? Am I going to count him out right away before we have had one spring training game? No, not at all. Do I think it's a long shot for him to somehow find his way into this rotation? Yes, but never going to count anything out yet. So I appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you smash that like button and you are subscribed to the channel. Greatly appreciate all your support here on the show. Like, share, and subscribe. Helps the YouTube algorithm significantly. Any questions about the Mets, throw them in the chat. We'll get to those. Any questions about the MLB, we'll get to those. If you want to call into the show, you can do so by using the pinned comment up at the top of the chat. Where are we? Caden says Yankees on top. No way, Jose. Caden. Appreciate you tuning in, though. Metropolitans on top. New York Mets. Telling you, top team in New York this season. Telling you right now. Caden says, Connor, you could still switch to a Yankees fan. The season hasn't started yet. Nope. Mets fan for life. Mets fan for life here, Caden. Sharon in the building. Sharon, appreciate your support channel member here on the show. Let's go Mets. We sent Soto on my birthday. That must have been one hell of a birthday present. What was that? I think they sent him at like 10:30 p.m. Historic contract. It's great to see him down in Port St. Lucie. Finally get to see first sights of him in a Mets uniform. Talking to Pete Alonso, talking to Jesse Winker. So it's great to see Juan Soto down in Port St. Lucie. Gary King, channel member in the building. Gary, good to see you. Appreciate your support on the show as always. Um, Gary says you could start Tylor in April, but starting in May, bring up Spread. Here's the thing. I don't want to see either one of them in the starting rotation right away. I like McGill as a relief pitcher. We've seen some of him as a relief guy over the past few years because when he started to struggle at times, Carlos Mendoza, Luis Rojas, even at the time, they did great jobs of kind of evaluating and saying, okay, I think we need to come and see you out of the bullpen, and I thought he was fine out of the bullpen. So I'm going to stand pat on my idea of Jose Quintana. I think gives them the best chance to win once every 6 days, being the sixth man in that rotation. But I wouldn't mind McGill at all. The I don't want to see Canning whatsoever. Spratt, I don't think is ready to come up to the MLB level, but at least he would be exciting because we know what the future we can then get a glimpse of what the future holds with him at the next level. Compared to Griffin Canning, who's already 29 years old, who has struggled as a starter throughout his whole career, I don't think there's much there. So Canning is one of the only guy really I would not be okay with on this list. I'm open to every other name except Canning. My whole thing is I think Quintana gives them the best chance to win once every 6 days, and he showcased that last year. Mike says Quintana was last year's opening day starter. Yes, he was. He certainly wouldn't be the opening day starter this year, but he can come in and be the sixth man for sure. Gary says Jose Quintana was really good down the stretch into the postseason last year. Wouldn't mind him back. He's also not going to cost the house. We're talking 1 year, $10 million for someone who, gave you 3.45 ERA. He could give you, 6 innings a game. And like you said there, he's solid down the stretch, 10-10 as a starter, give you over 170 innings pitched. I would love Jose Quintana back on this team. Like the Frankie Montas injury certainly hurts because you hear the names we're evaluating. They aren't all that attractive. That's why I think this Montas injury hurts. Not only the fact that he shut down for the spring, the fact he shut down for 6 to 8 weeks, and then another 4 to 6 weeks on top of that. Like who knows? I think the best case scenario is you get Jose Quintana in your 1 year, $10 million. He's impressed. His ERAs, in that 3 range. He's around 500 as you enter June, as you enter July, and maybe you don't need Frankie Montas to come in right away. You're not in need of all that pitching depth. He could take his time as he rehabs from the shoulder injury, and you don't really need to rush him back into the rotation because you're eager for wins, and the pitchers are only giving you, for example, Jose Quintana is going to give you 4 innings an outing. Like I think that's a bad scenario. The best case scenario, in my opinion, is Jose Quintana, like I said, comes in, induces ground balls, and he's pretty much a 500 guy all the way up until midway through July. So you do not have to force what's his name, Frankie Montas, to come back right away. Give him his time to rehab. Gary says I want Jose Iglesias back. Oh my God, in 2025. Here's my thing. I would love Jose Iglesias back after the signing of Nick Madrigal, though, just a few weeks ago, another middle infielder, veteran on the cheap. I don't think he's going to come back. The thing is, if he's going to play Major League Baseball next year, it's going to be with the Mets. And I'm not counting out all hope. We're talking about someone who, yes, he had impressive last year, but he's going to be a $5 million player at max. You don't need to pay this guy a ton of money to come in and, compete for a job at second base. And maybe you can even move him over to third base. Maybe you can even move him over to third base, see what he has there, because that's one of his, he's a utility man. So you can put him he plays all middle infield and the hot corner, obviously. You can put him at second base, kind of your backup second baseman whenever McNeil goes down with injury, or you want to give him a rest. Shortstop, obviously, you have Francisco Lindor. And then third base, I think if you bring Jose Iglesias back now for the meat and potatoes of spring training, you give him an opportunity to potentially battle it out, not only with Jeff McNeil for the starting second baseman job, but Mets really, really big on McNeil. They want to keep him there as the opening day starter. Then you have an opportunity to compete against the youngster and Luis Angel Acuna for the starting third baseman job. So Jose Iglesias, you need to bring him back. Great locker room guy. He's going to be back on the cheap. And if he's going to play Major League ball somewhere, I think it's with the Mets. I really do. So Jose Iglesias, OMG in 2025. Completely agree for sure. Appreciate you all tuning in. Appreciate all your support on the show. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Completely free and helps us grow significantly here on the show. Sprinkling in some Mets coverage here on the Connor Long YouTube channel, which normally talk Jets. We're going to wrap up here soon, so final chance to get your questions in. Like I said, final chance, comments, questions, thought, last chance to call into the show. What are your thoughts on some Mets coverage? Obviously, we're still going to do the daily Jets show, but sprinkling in some daily, it's not daily, but some Mets coverage here and there could be fun for sure. So let me know what you guys think. Appreciate it. Like I said, appreciate all your support as always. Last chance, questions, comments, thoughts. Last chance to call into the show. Pin comment at the top of the chat. Here's my thought. Those are my thoughts. Really, I rattled them off throughout the past 15 minutes on what route I think the Mets should go with the starting rotation. I want Jose Iglesias back. I don't expect I don't expect any big moves when it comes to maybe adding another pitcher. I heard Dylan Cease floated around as a potential idea. I'm not big on it. I would love Dylan Cease to come, but I'm not giving up all those assets for someone to come in. Yes, he would jump to the start of the rotation, but I don't want to make big deals for guys. I haven't been a fan of. Okay, yes, if you want to sign Jose Iglesias for OMG for Candelita, whatever you want to call him, for $5 million, bring him in right to spring training for sure. If you want to re-sign Jose Quintana, who's a familiar face here for sure. I'm never too big on though giving up a ton of assets, trading for big names right as spring training's kind of getting in the swing of things. So because then you got to learn the locker room. I'm just not too big on it. I'm not. Like I said, if you want to bring back a smaller name in Jose Iglesias, you want to bring back Jose Quintana, sure, but I don't want to be giving up all these prospects, to bring in someone like Dylan Cease, who, guys are already starting to get to know each other. We're getting in the swing of things when it comes to spring training, so I've never been a big fan of taking that route. Gary says this is a great addition to the show. Sharon says, love the Mets coverage. That's awesome, guys. I appreciate it. So I'm going to start I'll start doing some Mets shows in here, sprinkling it in a few times a week. Maybe we can get some guests on, some Mets beat reporters, some Mets fans, stuff like that. So, yeah, this is a show of the people. So whatever you guys want to see, NBA, MLB coverage, obviously our daily Jets show is primary here. But whatever you guys want to see, I'm open to bringing you guys. So let me know here. What do you guys want to see on the show? Like I said, we're gonna wrap up in a few minutes. So last chance for questions, comments, thoughts. Like I said, last chance to call into the show. Liz, appreciate you tuning in. New subscriber. Always happy to have the new people here, Liz. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your insight. I would like to see Iglesias come back. For sure, Liz. We're talking about someone who's not going to cost a ton. And backs, I think we're looking in that $3 to $5 million range for one season. Give him an opportunity to compete with Jeff McNeil for the second baseman job. If not that, give him an opportunity to compete for the third baseman job with Luis Angel Acuna. We know the whole OMG story for last year. Great locker room guy. Certainly can't hurt to bring Jose Iglesias Candelita back next season. Now, Liz, did you subscribe because you saw this show, or are you a Jets fan? What's the backstory behind there, Liz? I appreciate your support nonetheless. Liz wants Quintana as well. Again, Quintana's my number one guy overall to take Montas's spot to start the season. He's a 500 guy, veteran. You don't have to pay him a ton of money. Familiar with the locker room. I'd take him over an inconsistent Tyler McGill, an erratic Griffin Canning, a Paul Blackburn who came in and went 1-2 and was average to below average at best. And then a Brandon Spratt who we haven't seen yet at the MLB level. So I just think Jose Quintana is the most proven, knows the locker room. That's what I think, gives them the best chance to win once every 6 days. Gary says, what are your thoughts on bringing Grimace back in 2025, Connor? This is my plan, Gary. Let's say the Mets get off to a great start. They're hot. We're, talking 10, 15 games above as we head into the All-Star break. Then we don't need Grimace. But we start to struggle like we did last year. You get off to an ugly 1-5 start to the season, which I hope to God does not happen. You struggle. You're crawling into the All-Star break. Then you bring Grimace back. But if you get off to a hot start, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Broken, so don't fix it. So that's where I am. I don't think you need to bring Grimace back unless you're well below 500. That's where I stand. Liz says, I subscribe based on your title, Mets fan here. Liz, well, it's great to have you. If you're new to the channel, this is our first time doing some Mets talk on the show. We're going to sprinkle in Mets talk moving forward. Primarily, though, this is the Jets show every single day. We talk New York Jets football on here. But you guys want more Mets talk? We'll do it. I love talking about the Mets, and should be a really fun season ahead. So, like I said, maybe we get some fans on here, some beat reporters, come up with a name for the Mets show. Like I said, though, obviously the Jets show, excuse me, is going to take priority because this is the Jets channel. I just wanted to sprinkle in some Mets coverage, see, gauge the pulse of the listeners here, and it looks like it was a hit, so I'm happy that went well. So I appreciate you guys. As always, gonna wrap up here soon. So now, actually, your final chance. I know I always say it, but now it's the final chance. Call one of the show or get your final questions, comments, thoughts in here. If you're a Jets fan, we'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. EST, with our guy Gunny Gumby of New York Jets Situation Report, who will be joining us in his weekly spot, and we're going to try to sprinkle this show in once every few weeks. Liz, I appreciate it. Yeah, I got this hat. I think I got it over the summer. Nice blue Mets hat. I appreciate that, Liz. Like I said, though, Jets show every single day in the channel if you're new, and then, we're going to sprinkle in some Mets talk, so I appreciate you guys. As always, thanks so much for your support. That'll do it. Third show overall on the channel here. Appreciate your support. As always, here on this Monday evening. That'll do it for me. I am your host, Connor Long, signing off. JTS, Jets, Jets, Jets. Mets, Mets, Mets.